like does in 10. He holds his ground, but something happened to Paul. Okay, it started with the light when he was headed to Damascus. Something happened there. It started, and it's still going on. God is still God did things for Paul. And let's take a look at 2 Corinthians 12. Verse 5. Or no, verse 3. Somebody read 3 through 6. Somebody read 3 through 6. And go ahead. I don't hear anything. 2 Corinthians 3 through 6. Somebody read it. We need to put this on the table.
And I know that this man, whether in the body or apart from the body, I do not know, but God knows, was caught up to paradise and heard inexpressible things, things that no one is permitted to tell. Will boast about a man like that. But I will not boast about myself, except about my weaknesses. Even if I should choose to boast, I would not be a fool, because I would be speaking the truth. But I refrain, so no one would think more of me than is warranted by what I do or say.
Aha. That's what we first read in Romans. Paul knows about the scale. He understands about the scale because he's getting ready to tell us about the thorn in his flesh. And he is separating those two areas. The part of us that is living in reality, our core is in reality with Christ, hidden in Christ. If we have the truth in us, that which we have believed. Okay? Why we go back to living in the world, why we go back on that other plane, what are we looking for? Like Paul said, even if I talk to you and tell you all these incredible things that God and I have done together in Christ, even if I tell you them, I'm telling you the truth. But if I go there and, and tell you them, there's going to be the possibility that if your faith isn't sufficient, you're going to think more of me than you should. Paul is very, very aware of the difference between his core and the corporeal realm. How he looks, his age, his weight, his, the clothes he wears, the things that he says and does. He is not confusing one area with the other. He's not. But what he's finding out is, as he is out there witnessing, the world needs that appeal to Christ to not get those two mixed up. The world needs to hear your witness of Jesus Christ, because they are not like you. They're not like us. They're not. They're going to see your grades, the way you comb your hair, your glasses, your big belly, you sitting around. They're going to be evaluating you from the corporeal plane. That's what they see. And so Paul needed to make an appeal to them from the spiritual side. He realized that what he does and what he says is making his ministry valuable or potent or significant. It carries the weight. That's what he says here. He says in verse 6, he says, so no one will think more of me than is warranted by what I do or say. This is a big problem for us. It's something that we've got to be very careful about. When you leave a person, are you leaving them with Christ? Or are you leaving them with, he's a leftist, he's from the right, or, he sure likes his food, or, or she, really, is a hard worker. Is that what we're leaving people with? Because, and if we are, what does it say about our core? The hidden part of us. The truth about how we are inside. Okay? I know everyone is paying attention to the issue about the illegal aliens in our ranks. I know that Christianity, the religion, has spent billions going to other countries to witness to the blind third world people. Okay? Well, now that they're here and they're our neighbors, all we can think about them is get them out. Keep them away. It's a very confusing message coming out of the church. Very confusing. Okay? So be thinking about that. All right? Study the thorn. Read 7 through 10. Read it. Listen to what Paul says. Read again. Read all of 12. Look it over. Look over 2 Corinthians 10. restudy Romans 12, 3 through 6. Look those over and think about, what's going on inside. Is there continuity with what we do and say? What's it have to do with what we do and say? Are we being hypocrites? Are we confused? Do they not match? Are you really saved? Okay? Think about the problem that Paul had in 10 and what he had to do to fix it. Okay? I hate when I do all the talking. I do like to get input. I do want to hear, your mind on this because it really helps me to get myself organized. I need the input. I need to hear, whether or not I'm accurately dividing the word. That it's having effect, that it has, spiritual substance and continuity with the written word. I need to know that. I need that. All believers need that. All believers, what they do and say, need to have help with that continuity, because Paul had to do it in 10. We saw that. God had to do it for Paul in 12. We all need that to help. We all need help with the balance. We all need help with keeping that balance. And that's why, like last week, Dom said something, and I referenced 1 Corinthians 11, where Paul said that without division, without that contrasting view, it is not possible to become accurate. We need that contrasting view. We really do. We need to be able to see to balance, to have balance. We need to be able to see the scale accurately, and the best tool that I understand from the word, I believe it's in Hebrews, it says that we should not forsake meeting together. We need to come together. The problem is that we got too organized and religious with it, and we each go to our individual congregations, and we're very separate in the practice of our faith. We're very different, and we denominate each other. We pull away instead of having the differences, allowing the difference to correct us, to get a good scale. And so I believe that's part and partially why we are so easy to separate from our neighbor. We could pull away from our neighbor in disgust, because our scale is imbalanced. You know, I'm not like them. You know what I mean? It's like, if we weren't concerned about, you know, and didn't have this struggle or in our own personal struggle, if we weren't struggling inside, we'd have the confidence and freedom to interact with them, and instead of comparing ourselves to them and looking for the darkness instead of the light. We're out of focus, so to speak. Anyways, it's been over an hour. Anybody have any questions or any insight? I mean, guys have been quiet today. I don't know why. I don't know if do you want to stay on this study track? Is it not strong enough for you? I mean, you guys might be stronger than me, and you want to go on to something with more teeth. You know, I don't know. I'd like to know what's going on in your mind. What are you thinking? Maybe this is romper room. You're bored. I don't know. But if you know, I really would appreciate the responses. It would be valuable to me.
I think that that verse about the plank keeps coming to my mind because a lot of times, you know, we can't meet up or can't connect with people because we've gotten to some kind of place where, you know, we have this pride. And I see that in Christianity. That we forget that the Lord has carried us and brought us to places where we're at. If we're in any place that's good, He brought us there. And so I think that's important to understand, because if we don't see it that way, then we're going to be judgmental of other people and their perspectives. And once we have something brought to light, we take it as our own, and then it could build up pride, and then we can't see people in their condition, where they're at. And sometimes in their condition we could even learn something instead of teaching them something. But a lot of times I see that's a struggle, and we forget that, you know, Christ is the only reason we have any kind of understanding or get to any place in life. And we could say it, we could talk about it, but to truly believe it, we would act different. We would talk different. So I don't know. That's what's going on in my head. You know, as we're talking about this.
Well, I was wondering what was going on up there. I was a little scared to ask, but that's pretty good. No, I'm kidding. Who's the criminal? You know, that's the question that I'm asking myself, because I'll tell you what. We are far too reliant on the flesh realm to tell us what is going on. And I'll give you an example of that. Okay? I was in prison ministry for a few years. I went into prisons. I met with them, with inmates, and talked to them about the Lord and their lives and what's going on. And it's kind of interesting that I knew where the criminals were. You know, you can identify them because they're the ones on the wrong side of the bars. You know? It's really easy. And they all wear the same clothes. So, you know, you could spot them. Okay? And so when I wanted to talk to somebody about the Lord, it was an easy thing. I could just get on the prison ministry roster and just go. You know? And we have thousands of people who we call criminals, not very far from here. The evil dumped them, maybe evil, dumped them, you know, just a few miles from us. Not very far, like 20,000. They're there. There's no bars. You don't need to get a prison ministry license to go and minister. You don't need it to go to your neighbor. The weird thing is, like, who are you? Who are we? You know, do we have the ministry of reconciliation or don't we? And it gets kind of confusing because what we claim to have inside is not a lot of visibility of that on the outside. And we are confusing to the public. Who wants to join something that confuses them? Because it's confusing to me. And I've been in the faith 40 some years. So if it's confusing to me, I'm sure it's going to be confusing to my neighbor. Who are you? You know? So we got to get in alignment with our core and who we really are, with what we do and say. Those things have to have more alignment. And if you read these stories that we went over today with Paul, you're going to see, and you go back to, you know, when Paul was headed to Damascus, if you go back and read that, you're going to see God aligning those things.